Let's talk Lynx with Cassidy Hettesheimer, one of the busiest writers right now. Welcome to covering the WNBA, Cassidy. All that happened in the first series you really covered big time for us was what? The Lynx lost game 3, then Napheesa Collier got injured, and then Cheryl Reeve got suspended, and then they lost game 4, and the series was over. They blew a 13-point lead. And then to top it off, Cheryl Reeve got a big fine, and Napheesa Collier went, what are we calling it, scorched earth on the whole league during Tuesday's postseason availability. It's been quite a few days, Cassidy, has it not?
Yes. Yeah, I was joking that I lost 2 hours yesterday, flying back from Phoenix. And of all weekends to lose 2 hours, it was not this one in terms of work and sleep. But yeah, I mean, it's been busy. I mean, just the kind of one thing from another to another. But I don't really know if any of this, from Reeve's comments to even the Lynx, the end of their season, to Collier's comments, even though it is stuff that feels newsy, it's not anything that's sudden in terms of the buildup. I think all of these things, and we could kind of break them down individually, but have had things kind of building up to it. So, it was all just kind of coming to a head at the same time.
Yeah, well, absolutely, because and on the backdrop of all this is that once this season is over, we've got the whole collective bargaining agreement and the whole everything's kind of up for grabs, and players are kind of positioning themselves in a certain way. But let's pause for a minute, and I'm going to run a good chunk of what Napheesa Collier, the statement she read at the beginning of her availability. It was about 4 minutes long. I'm going to cut it down just a little bit, but here is kind of the bulk of what she had to say.
So first of all, I'd like to congratulate the Mercury for advancing to the finals. And I want to be clear, this conversation is not about winning or losing. It's about something much bigger. The real threat to our league isn't money, it isn't ratings, or even missed calls, or even physical play. It's the lack of accountability from the league office. Since I've been in the league, you've heard the constant concerns about officiating, and it has now reached levels of inconsistency that plague our sport and undermine the integrity in which it operates. Whether the league cares about the health of the players is one thing, but to also not care about the product we put on the floor is truly self-sabotage. Year after year, the only thing that remains consistent is the lack of accountability from our leaders. The league has a buzzword that they've rolled out as talking points for the CBA as to why they can't pay the players what we're worth. That word is sustainability. But what's truly unsustainable is keeping a good product on the floor while allowing officials to lose control of games. Fans see it every night. Coaches, both winning and losing, point it out every night in pregame and postgame media. Yet leadership just issues fines and looks the other way. They ignore the issues that everyone inside the game is begging to be fixed. That is negligence. At Unrivaled this past February, I sat across from Kathy and asked how she planned to address the officiating issues in our league. Her response was, well, only the losers complain about the refs. I also asked how she planned to fix the fact that players like Caitlin, Angel, and Paige, who are clearly driving massive revenue for the league, are making so little for their first 4 years. Her response was, Caitlin should be grateful she makes $16 million off the court, because without the platform that the WNBA gives her, she wouldn't make anything. And in that same conversation, she told me players should be on their knees thanking their lucky stars for the media rights deal that I got them. That's a mentality driving our league from the top. We go to battle every day to protect a shield that doesn't value us. The league believes it succeeds despite its players, not because of them. I have the privilege of watching my husband run a league where he has to balance 100 different things at once. I won't pretend the job is easy, but even with all of that on his plate, he always takes the time to reach out to players when he sees an injury, whether it's Unrivaled or even during the WNBA season. That is what leadership looks like. It's the human element. It's basic integrity, and it's the bare minimum any leader should embody. This year alone, I've gotten calls, texts, and well wishes from so many players across the league. Those moments remind me that sometimes there are things bigger than the results than this game we play. But do you know who I haven't heard from? Kathy. Not one call, not one text. Instead, the only outreach has come from her number 2 telling my agent that she doesn't believe physical play is contributing to injuries. That is infuriating, and it's the perfect example of the tone-deaf, dismissive approach that our leaders always seem to take. I've finally grown tired. For too long, I have tried to have these conversations in private, but it's clear there is no intention of accepting there's a problem. The league has made it clear it isn't about innovation, it isn't about collaboration, it's about control and power. I've earned this platform and I've paid the price to get here, and now I have a responsibility to speak on behalf of the fans and everyone in this league that deserves better. Our leadership's answer to being held accountable is to suppress everyone's voices by handing out fines. I'm not concerned about a fine. I'm concerned about the future of our sport. At some point, everyone deserves to hear the truth from someone who I hope has earned the benefit of the doubt to fight for what is right and fair for our athletes and our fans. We have the best players in the world. We have the best fans in the world. But right now, we have the worst leadership in the world. If I didn't know exactly what the job entailed, maybe I wouldn't feel this way. But unfortunately for them, I do. We serve a league that has shown they think championship coaches and Hall of Fame players are dispensable, and that's fine, it's professional sports. But I will not stand quietly by and allow different standards to be applied at the league level.
Okay, that's a lot, Cassidy. I don't know if I would have expected her to say that much, but what was your as she's reading it, as you're kind of processing it, and now as you kind of had a little bit of time to digest it, what do you think of all that?
Yeah, I mean, Collier is a leader in this league. She's a leader in women's basketball. I mean, she was our 2024 Star Tribune Sports Person of the Year, and Kent Youngblood, our Lynx writer, did a really great story on her and just all of, not the only success she's having on the court, but everything off of it. So to me, it makes sense that for this to happen to her, to have that injury, kind of as a tipping point, and her season is wrapped up. We were in there in the press room kind of discussing that how that kind of gives you maybe an opportunity to speak out in a way that, if you had a finals tomorrow, you might not want to call that attention to yourself just yet. Maybe you still make that statement in the off season. But she, has been someone who's been using her voice to advocate for these sorts of things. She's a vice president of the Players Association. She's a co-founder of, Unrivaled, the 3-on-3 basketball league that runs in the WNBA off season with Brown Stewart. And so, yeah, I mean, she's just someone who, is using her platform to call out this sort of thing that other players are echoing. I mean, even just in the past, you can see how fast it's resonating with people since we were over there at Target Center. Coming back, you're seeing a bunch of players jump on social media, current players, former players, echoing her, reposting, sharing that statement and agreeing with it. So I think she's, even though, Fee said that she's speaking for herself, which, I think as someone making a statement like that, you probably do, just to kind of, cover all your bases. But obviously what she's saying is resonating with a lot of people.
I mean, if this wasn't going to be a contentious enough off season with the CBA up and a lot of things on the bargaining table, feels like that upped the ante a little bit. You're basically calling out the entire league, and you're calling out the leadership of this league, and you're calling out the commissioner by name.
Yes.
So it was very intentional. I mean, when you read a statement, it is, you make no, you leave no, there's no doubting what she was intending to do there.
Yeah. And I mean, for her to kind of recount some of these conversations that she had with Cassidy at Unrivaled, to, point out her questioning the rookie salaries of Caitlin Clark and Paige Beckers and Angel Reese, who, I know obviously make lots of money in endorsement deals, but the fact that they're making $78,000 a year from the league directly, and considering how much money that, Clark and Reese and Beckers make the league, have made the league in the past couple of years, for her to, then tell it from her perspective that Kathy said, Caitlin should be grateful for the platform that she has. WNBA, that's pretty, that's, I'm trying to use a word that's, I don't know your language, your cleanliness standards on the podcast, but moving on. But for her to say that, and then obviously, as I'm writing the story, I'm sure many media members reaching out to the league for a response to his statement, and I got kind of sent the generic statement that they were sending out to media, which is basically Kathy saying that she admires Fee and everything she's standing for, and she's disappointed that that's sort of the takeaway that Collier had from their conversation. So it comes down to different people's recollection of these, but for Collier to put it out there like that publicly, is pretty. It forces their hand for a response.
Yeah, it does. Well, we'll see where that goes. If some of this does, I think she probably says this at some point, no matter what, in the off season, if this is how she feels, especially if she's in this leadership position. She took some heat earlier this year, and I don't think it was necessarily justified then, but like being in her unique position in the Players Association, but also with Unrivaled, it's an interesting kind of business place for her to be in, to be criticizing one while helping run this other league. I hope that doesn't get kind of caught up too high in the crosshairs, but I think she's leaving herself a little bit vulnerable there. But it does feel like ultimately a lot of this is like, yes, she would have said this anyway, but at this moment, it's going to come off to some people, I think, as like a disappointment hangover from everything that happened in the last few days. But I don't get the sense that this was just because they're upset with one thing that happened in one game.
Right. I mean, she reiterated it, and someone, asked her as a follow-up question of, does this have to, is this something that you would still say, even if you guys, had went and won the finals? And her take was, this isn't, about winning and losing. I think that like Collier's injury was for Reeve and, calling out the officials, I'm sure that for her, it's hard when it's something happens like this personally, but then, when you're friends with players from across the league, and those are people that you've worked with for a long time, and seeing, the difficulties that other people are having with the officiating or with the physicality that it permits. And I think too, that it came across in her statement. It would be looking at it too narrowly just to say that it was, taking issue with the officiating or way the season ended, because I think ultimately it's a frustration bubbling over of the way these CBA negotiations have transpired. And, there's a reason why they haven't been able to reach a consensus. And so I think that some people might characterize it like that, but, I think that Collier and the other players that agree with her would insist that it's not, it's not any one player that lost a semifinal that feels this way. It's a lot of players within this league that feel similarly.
How would you characterize, kind of shifting gears a little bit, how would you characterize what Cheryl Reeve said today? Kind of like, she got asked a bunch of stuff, but, some of it was, the aftermath of Game 3 and then being suspended for what ended up being their last game of the season. What was your kind of takeaway from how she handled that in this session?
Yeah. Again, someone asked her like pretty point blank, like, do you regret anything that kind of transpired after Game 3? And her answer was, that's life. But then elaborated on it, saying basically that she would continue to grow, and that certain emotions need to be tempered, but that she'll never regret I'm paraphrasing, but she'll never regret standing up for her players and standing up for what she believes in. So, it was a very it was an answer that's not going to get her fined anymore, or I hope.
I wouldn't think so. No,
I wouldn't think so. But yeah, so she spoke about that and kind of took, a bigger picture approach to the season. She spoke a little bit about what it was like to sit in the hotel room and watch her team play from afar, and that, that was hard, but you kind of get an extra level of appreciation for you get an extra level of appreciation for the team and what it looks like to see them play. But the word she used to describe her punishment, it wasn't unjustified or justified. The word she chose to use was unprecedented, which is true in terms of the timing of the suspension and the amount that she was fined. But that was sort of the probably careful word choice that she used.
So let's finish up here. Where does this team go from here? I mean, we got all these negotiations coming up. A lot of people can be free agents. We heard from all the other starters too, players like, Bridget Carlton, all these other, excellent players, Courtney Williams, Kayla McBride. Like what was the kind of takeaway? What was your sense for like, can they keep this team together? Can they do this again? It gets harder to run it back no matter what, but it's even harder when anybody can go anywhere really after this season.
Right. Everyone at some point in their exit interview was asked by a variety of reporters, like, do you see yourself here back next year? Do you like being here? And of course, most people, if they've had a good experience, which it seems like a lot of these players have had, are going to say that they enjoy playing here. They enjoy playing for this team. They think highly of this organization. A lot of them, and they did echo that, but I think everybody at some point again mentioned knowing how uncertain this offseason is and that they don't even know what salary caps are going to look like or what the free agency mechanisms are going to be. When the season might start, if there are CBA negotiation delays. And so, I think even if everybody did say, let's all run it back, let's all re-sign, and the team wanted everybody back, there's still some things that are out of their control that are a little still in flux, again, with the negotiations sort of holding up some of the solidifying of these procedures. But 2 new expansion teams are going to enter the league. Yeah. And so we are assuming that there's going to be some sort of expansion draft like there was last year, and players are going to have a certain number of players they can protect and a certain number they're going to be left on the table, and someone's going to be leaving through that. So, this team, it would be a lot of things would have to go in a very specific way for all of this to sort of turn out in the way that they think it will, or for them to be able to run it back in sort of a way that they did this year. But it was interesting. Like Cheryl did talk a little bit about the end of the season, and someone had asked about what do you kind of see as priorities for this off season, or what it would look like. And again, her answer is sort of like, we don't know what this off season is going to look like. We don't know what the salary cap is going to look like. I mean, so many things could change. Roster sizes or something that, it theoretically could change that are in a CBA agreement. That's not necessarily one of the most issue getting the most headlines, I guess, right now. But we've seen, teams have a lot of injured players and have to sign a lot of hardship players. So, there's a lot of sort of things that are in flux right now. And, the Lynx are going to have a lottery pick. So we're depending on where that falls and who they're able to take from it. I mean, yeah, it's just a kind of an uncertain offseason that they're heading into.
Yeah, a wild few days leading into a chaotic offseason. Man, it's a lot. You've been doing a great job covering it so far, and I'm sure you will continue to do that. I'm sure we'll have more to talk about here in not too long, but hopefully the rest of the week settles down. Whatever hours you lost, hopefully they don't, and hopefully you'll catch up at some point. Yes. And we'll look forward to reading your coverage the rest of the week. Okay.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm gonna follow up last exhausting weekend with a marathon this weekend, so that'll be.
Oh my gosh! Well, have fun, Cassidy. Thank you.
Yeah. No, thanks for having me on.